Yusei Fudo, the hero of time. From his humble beginnings in New Domino City's satellite sector to his world-saving adventures, this fan-favorite protagonist was known to the world as a tenacious duelist, capable of cobbling together a winning strategy out of almost any and every card that he found along the way. It's been 13 years since we bid farewell to Yusei at the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and the various Junk, Synchron, and Stardust cards that he favored have changed a lot in that time. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the cards Yusei might use today if he was still playing card games on motorcycles. So to get started, we have a variety of Synchron monsters that are tied to a series of warrior Synchro monsters that we'll get to later in the extra deck, such as Junk Synchron, Wheel Synchron, Satellite Synchron, Assault Synchron, Jet Synchron, Revolution Synchron, Unknown Synchron, and of course, Stardust Synchron. All of these are tuner monsters that support synchro summoning, and each one has their own unique effect. Junk Synchron is one of Yusei's old staples from back in the day. When it's normal summoned, its owner can special summon a level 2 or lower monster from the grave without its effects. Wheel Synchron can be used as a tuner or non-tuner monster, and it can be used to normal summon a level 4 or lower monster. Satellite Synchron can be special summoned from the hand if a monster is summoned from your grave. If you have a Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust Synchro monster on your field, this monster's level becomes 4. Assault Synchron can be special summoned in exchange for 700 life points. If a Dragon Synchro monster you control, like Stardust Dragon for example, is tributed or banished, you can banish this card from the grave to special summon that dragon back immediately. Jet Synchron can be special summoned by discarding one card, but it's banished instead of going to the grave when it's destroyed. It also lets you add a junk monster from the deck to your hand if it's used as a synchro material. Revolution Synchron can be used as a synchro material from the hand for a level 7 or 8 dragon monster. If this card is in the grave while you have a level 7 or 8 synchro monster on your field, you can send the top card of your deck to the grave to special summon this card as a level 1 tuner monster. Unknown Synchron can be special summoned when the enemy controls monsters but you don't have any on your side of the field. And Stardust Synchron can be special summoned from the grave by tributing one monster. When it's summoned, you can add a Stardust Dragon spell or trap card to the hand from your deck. We've also got some Synchron support monsters like Synchron Carrier and Synchron Explorer. Carrier lets the user summon a Synchron monster as a second normal summon during each main phase that it's on the field. It also summons a level 2 Synchron token once per turn when a Synchron monster is used as a synchro material while it's on the field. And Explorer can special summon a Synchron monster in the grave when it's summoned. Yusei is also known for using a lot of junk, so we're going to be giving him Junk Dragonlet, Junk Servant, Junk Forward, and Junk Converter. Junk Dragonlet can be special summoned if you have a synchro monster on the field. It can also be banished from the grave to give a synchro monster you control an extra 800 attack points for one turn when it attacks. Junk Servant can be special summoned if you already control a junk monster. Junk Forward can be special summoned if you don't have any monsters on the field. And Junk Converter can be discarded to add a Synchron monster from the deck to the hand. If this monster is used as a synchro material, you can special summon a tuner back to your field from the grave. Turbo Booster can be special summoned on the same turn that you conduct a normal summon. This monster can also be tributed to destroy an enemy monster that it battled that turn. Quillbolt Hedgehog is another returning monster from the old days. If you have a tuner monster on your field, this monster can be special summoned from the grave. We also have two warriors, Rush Warrior and Doppel Warrior. Rush Warrior can be discarded when a warrior synchro monster on your field battles an enemy monster to double your monster's attack points. This monster can also be banished from the grave to add a Synchron monster in your grave back to your hand. And Doppel Warrior can be special summoned when you special summon a monster from your grave, and if it's used as a synchro material, you can special summon 2 level 1 Doppel tokens. Converging Will's Dragon's name becomes Majestic Dragon when it's on the field or in the grave. It can be special summoned as soon as it's drawn, and if you control a level 8 or higher dragon synchro monster, you can also special summon a level 1 dragon monster from the deck. While this monster is a tuner, it can only be used as a synchro material to summon a majestic monster, which we'll get to in a bit. And to finish out Yusei's main deck monsters, we have some Stardust cards, with those being Stardust Trail, Stardust Xiaolong, and Stardust Worm. Stardust Trail can be special summoned from the hand or grave if another monster you control is tributed. If this card is used to synchro summon a Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust monster, you can special summon a level 1 Stardust token. Stardust Xiaolong can be special summoned from the grave when Stardust Dragon is synchro summoned and can't be destroyed by battle once per turn. And Stardust Worm can be special summoned from the hand or grave if you control a level 8 or higher synchro dragon. It can also be tributed to special summon up to 2 level 1 light dragon monsters from the hand or grave without their effects. And that does it for the monster cards. Moving on to spells and traps, we've got an eclectic collection, beginning with Stardust Illumination and Starlight Junction. Stardust Illumination is used to send a Stardust monster from the deck to the grave, unless you already control a Stardust Dragon Synchro monster, in which case you can special summon that monster instead of destroying it. Illumination can also be banished from the grave to raise or lower a Stardust monster's level by 1. Meanwhile, Starlight Junction is a field spell that lets you tribute a tuner monster to summon a Synchron monster of a different level from the deck. And if you Synchro summon during your opponent's turn, you can target one card on the field and shuffle it back into the deck. We have 2 Synchro spells, Synchro Creed and Synchro Chase. Creed lets the user draw cards based on the number of Synchro monsters on the field, and Chase prevents your opponent from activating effects in response to your Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust Synchro monsters. It also lets you immediately special summon a monster that was used as a Synchro material for any of those archetype Synchro monsters back to the field in defense mode. Arrive in Light is a continuous spell that is used to add a level 1 dragon monster to the top of the deck when it's activated. Its ongoing effect prevents Stardust Dragon monsters from being returned to the extra deck. It also activates one of 2 effects whenever a Synchro summon occurs. Either the player who controls this card draws 1 card, or can special summon a tuner monster from their hand. Tuning lets you add a Synchron tuner monster to your hand in exchange for sending the top card of your deck to the grave. Double Summon lets you normal summon 2 monsters in a single turn. Dual Genesis is used to add a Synchro spell or trap to your hand if you have a tuner monster on your field or in your graveyard. And last, we have On Your Mark, Get Set, Duel, which was the name of the first episode of the 5D's English dub. It's a continuous spell card that lets the user add a Synchron monster from the deck to the hand when they don't control any cards on the field. You can place a signal counter on this card during each standby phase, and you can remove 2 counters to destroy this card, draw 2 cards, and then discard another card. And then onto the traps. We have some Synchro support traps like Synchro Material, Synchro Deflector, Synchro Forceback, and Synchro Zone. Synchro Material targets one face-up enemy monster and can use it as a Synchro Material, though you can't attack during the turn that this card is used. Synchro Deflector negates an enemy attack against one of your Synchro monsters and destroys the attacking enemy monster. Synchro Forceback returns monsters on the field based on the number of Synchro monsters on your field. And Synchro Zone prevents any monsters from attacking except for Synchro monsters. Once per turn, you can special summon a non-tuner Synchro monster that was sent to the graveyard that turn back to the field as a tuner monster. And during your enemy's main phase, you can send this card to the grave in order to conduct a Synchro summon during their turn. Urgent Tuning allows you to conduct a Synchro summon during the battle phase. Majestic Mirage activates when a Stardust Dragon or Synchro monster that mentions it leaves the field in order to activate another card effect. You can special summon that monster back to the field, you can banish an enemy monster, or you can reduce any damage for the rest of the turn by half. Stardust Wish is a continuous trap whose effect activates if a Stardust Synchro monster you control is tributed to activate its own effect. It is immediately special summoned back to the field, which your opponent cannot trigger card effects to prevent, and the Stardust monster gains the effect that it can't be destroyed by battle while in attack mode so long as this card stays on the field. So this removes the primary drawback of using a Stardust monster's effect while buffing it at the same time. And to round out the traps, we have the Scrap Iron cards. Yusei famously used Scrap Iron Scarecrow as a near impenetrable defense throughout 5Ds, but now we've added Scrap Iron Signal and Scrap Iron Statue. Scrap Iron Scarecrow can be used to negate any enemy attacks, but instead of being sent to the graveyard after it's used, this card just flips back to face down position so that it can be used over and over again. Scrap Iron Signal works the same way, but instead of negating attacks, it negates monster effects, but only if you control a Synchro monster that requires another Synchro monster as one of its summoning materials. And Scrap Iron Statue also works the same way, but negates spells and traps that are already face up on the field. So things like continuous spells and traps or back row cards that stay on the field for multiple turns. It also has a bonus effect where you can special summon a junk monster from the graveyard when it leaves the field. And that does it for Yusei's main deck. For the side deck, we've got one more Scrap Iron card, Scrap Iron Sacred Statue, which lets you special summon a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro monster that is banished or in the grave, but it's returned to the extra deck at the end of the turn. It can also special summon the Crimson Dragon from the extra deck, and, like all the other Scrap Iron cards, it returns to face down position once it's been used. Synchro Overtop is used to target any level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchros in the grave and special summon them in defense mode as level 1 monsters with no effects. This card can be banished from the extra deck when a Synchro monster you control is destroyed by battle, and you can summon Crimson Dragon right from the extra deck. Similarly, Synchro Rumble targets a tuner or a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro monster in the graveyard and summons them in defense position. This card can be banished from the grave to protect a level 7 or 8 dragon, or the Crimson Dragon, from being destroyed once. And Synchro World collects 2 spell counters every time a monster is Synchro summoned. You can remove 4 counters to increase or decrease the level of a face-up monster you control by 1, you can remove 7 to special summon a tuner monster from your grave, and you can remove 10 to special summon a Synchro monster from the graveyard. And if this card is destroyed, you can special summon Crimson Dragon from the extra deck. Converging Wishes is a trap that can be activated if you have 5 different Dragon Synchro monsters in the grave. You can special summon Stardust Dragon from the extra deck, but it's banished at the end of the turn. While it's on the field, this card is equipped to it, and it gains attack points of all the Dragon Synchro monsters in your grave. However, if it destroys a monster while this card is equipped to it, you must banish a Dragon Synchro monster from your graveyard, which is going to lower Stardust Dragon's attack points. Psy Reflector, Assault Beast, and Assault Sentinel are all used to support Assault Mode monsters or summonings. Psy Reflector lets you add Assault Mode Activate or a card that mentions it from the deck to the hand when it's summoned. While this card is on the field, you can reveal an Assault Mode Activate card in your hand to target a card in your graveyard that mentions it and special summon that card, increasing its level by 1, 2, 3, or 4. Assault Beast can be discarded to add Assault Mode Activate to the hand, and Assault Sentinel can be tributed to special summon a monster from the hand or deck that mentions Assault Mode Activate. While this is on the field, you can reveal a Synchro monster in your extra deck, and one monster on your field gains its type and attribute for the rest of the turn. Assault Revival lets you banish Assault Mode Activate from the grave to destroy all of your own monsters, and special summon an Assault Mode monster from the grave without its effects. Assault Mode 0 lets you tribute a Synchro monster to special summon that Synchro monster's Assault Mode counterpart. This card can be banished from the grave to set Assault Mode Activate directly from the hand or deck to the field. And of course, after all of this buildup, we have Assault Mode Activate itself. You can tribute a Synchro monster and then can special summon its Assault Mode counterpart. And who might that be, you ask? Why, of course, Stardust Dragon, Assault Mode! This monster appeared in the Japanese exclusive special Evolving Duel, Stardust vs. Red Demons, in which Yusei and Jack Atlas battled using the Assault Mode versions of Stardust Dragon and Red Dragon Archfiend. This monster can be tributed to negate and destroy another card that activates its effects and can be special summoned back from the grave at the end of the turn. When this card is destroyed, you can special summon Stardust Dragon back from the grave. That leaves us with 3 slots left in the side deck, but like last week's Jade and Yuki profile, the rest of the side deck monsters are all extra deck cards. So screw it. We're going to present this as an 18 card extra deck, and if you decide to build this profile yourself, you can decide which 3 monsters end up in the side deck instead. First, we have the Many Warriors, who are derived from the many Synchrons in Yusei's main deck, with those being Junk Warrior, Jet Warrior, Signal Warrior, Satellite Warrior, Stardust Warrior, and Stardust Charge Warrior. Junk Warrior is an old favorite from the 5Ds days and actually won Yusei his final duel of the series. When it's synchro summoned, it gains attack points equal to all of the level 2 or lower monsters you currently control. Jet Warrior can return an enemy card to the hand and can be special summoned from the grave in defense mode by tributing a level 1 or 2 monster, though Jet Warrior is banished when it's destroyed again. Signal Warrior places a signal counter onto itself and any field card every standby phase. These counters can be removed for a variety of different effects. Remove 4 counters to inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent, remove 7 to draw 1 card, and remove 10 to destroy a card on the field. Satellite Warrior can destroy a card on your opponent's field for each synchro monster in your grave when it's synchro summoned, and it gains 1,000 attack points for each card it destroyed. If it's destroyed, you can special summon up to 3 different level 8 or lower Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust synchro monsters from your graveyard. Stardust Warrior can be tributed to negate an enemy special summon. You can then special summon it back from the grave at the end of the turn. If Stardust Warrior is destroyed, you can special summon a level 8 or lower Warrior synchro monster from the extra deck. And Stardust Charge Warrior lets you draw a card when it's synchro summoned and can attack all special summoned monsters your opponent controls at once. Junk Speeder lets you special summon as many different leveled Synchron tuner monsters as you can from the deck in defense position. and this card's attack points are doubled when it's involved in a battle. Formula Synchron and Excel Synchron are both Synchro tuner monsters, used to special summon certain advanced Synchro cards. In the show, this process is called Excel Synchro Summoning, with more advanced methods being called Delta Excel Synchro Summoning and Limit Over Excel Synchro Summoning. Formula Synchron lets you draw a card when it's summoned, while Excel Synchron lets you send a Synchron monster from the deck to the grave in order to either increase or decrease this card's level by that sent monster's level. Both of these monsters also share the effect that they can be used to perform a Synchro Summoning during your opponent's turn. And now, we come to the ace up Yusei's sleeve, his signature card and his spirit animal, the Stardust Dragon. When a card effect is activated that would destroy another card on the field, Stardust Dragon can be tributed to negate the effect and destroy the card that activated it. But Stardust Dragon gets to come back from the grave at the end of the turn. But more excitingly, this card can be upgraded in a number of different ways. By using Excel Synchro Summoning, Yusei combined it with Formula Synchron to bring out Shooting Star Dragon, which lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and attack once for each tuner monster there. Any card or effect that would destroy this card is negated and destroyed once per turn. And when an enemy monster declares an attack, this card can be banished until the end of the turn to negate that attack. Now technically, Yusei never achieved Delta Excel Synchro Summoning during his adventures, but we do get to see Stardust Dragon's Delta Excel Synchro variant in an alternate future in which Zone, the series' antagonist, used it in order to battle the Mech Lords, the series' other antagonists. And that variant is called Cosmic Blazar Dragon. It can be banished until the end of the turn in order to negate and destroy an enemy card effect, negate the summoning of an enemy monster and destroy it, or negate an enemy attack and end the battle phase. But Yusei did perform Limit Over Excel Synchro Summoning in the final duel of the series against Zone by tuning all 6 of the Signer Dragons together to call forth Shooting Quasar Dragon. This monster can attack once for each non-tuner Synchro monster that was used as part of its summoning. This card can negate any card effect once per turn, and when it leaves the battle, you can summon Shooting Star Dragon straight from the extra deck. All in all, this was Yusei's most powerful card during the original 5Ds run. But we're gonna say that he added a few cards from this family into his deck since then, with the first being Shooting Riser Dragon, which almost feels like a previous evolved stage to Shooting Star Dragon. When it's synchro summoned, you can send a monster with a lower level than this card from the deck to the grave to reduce Shooting Riser Dragon's level by that monster's level. And then you can immediately perform another synchro summoning so long as it uses this card. Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon is a relatively new member of the Stardust family. When it's summoned, this monster allows the user to summon a level 2 or lower tuner monster from the grave. It can then be tributed to summon the original Stardust Dragon from the deck and then immediately perform a synchro summon. If you do, whatever monster you synchroed out is unaffected by activated effects. Now back during his battle against the Dark Signers, Yusei battled Callan Kessler and Rex Goodwin with Majestic Star Dragon, an evolution of the Stardust Dragon and Majestic Dragon. However, since we've upgraded Yusei to Converging Wills Dragon, we're going to say this upgraded his boss monster to Shooting Majestic Star Dragon. It can negate one monster effect each turn and gains an additional attack each turn for every Stardust Dragon or Synchro Dragon that mentions it in your graveyard. This card can also be banished until the end of the turn to negate a card effect and then banish that card. And the final evolved member of the Stardust Dragon family is Cosmic Quasar Dragon, which I'm going to say is the product of Limit Break over under Delta Omega Excel Synchro Summoning. Each turn, it can target one face-up card on the field, plus an additional card for each monster used as its synchro material. The targeted cards have their effects negated, an effect that in and of itself can't be negated. And if this card isn't doing it for you, it can banish itself to special summon another dragon monster that requires 2 or more non-tuner synchro monsters from the extra deck. I mean, seriously, I would have loved to see Yusei pull out this card at some point. And last, but certainly not least, we have a card whose absence from 5Ds always raised a few eyebrows, the Crimson Dragon. For being the show's mascot and such an important part of the lore, it's a little surprising that we didn't get this card until 2023. But we finally have it, and when it's summoned, you can add a spell or trap that mentions it from the deck to the hand. It can be used to target a level 7 or higher synchro monster on the field, and return it to the extra deck, while also special summoning a dragon synchro monster of the same level from your own extra deck. And those, fellow duelists, are the modern cards I'd like to see Yusei Fudo using if he were still dueling today. Of course, there are all kinds of other cards we could have included, like Yusei's manga cards, Stardust Spark Dragon, Stardust Chronicle Spark Dragon, and Stardust Cypher Divine Dragon. There are a bunch of other Synchron and Warrior cards that didn't make the cut that I'm sure he'd use. And as the leader of the signers, there is no doubt that he might occasionally use some of his friends' cards again, like he did in the final duel with Zone. But there are only so many spots available. But what did you think about the cards in this deck profile? Are these the sort of cards you think our hero would be using today, or are there other cards you'd have preferred that we swapped in instead? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe bell thing if you want to see more modern deck profiles in the future. A huge shout out to Wham Bam Duel for helping me create this deck profile. You can find a link to his channel down below in the description. This profile is also available on YGO Pro if you want to play with it yourself, and also in the description is a strategy guide on how to best use it. We'll be hard at work putting together next week's modern Yuma Tsukumo deck profile, so again, do the subscribey thing if you want to see that, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!